In Belgorod, the Russian city, which is only 15 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, locals complain about the refrigerated train wagons coming from Ukraine that have been standing there for a week. And they smell. So we can only guess what the Russians keep inside. This is a video of a local Russian cussing at his rotten countrymen. But what stuns me is the Russian inability to move their Kias for a week. Let's look at the situation around Kharkiv from the military map. As you can see, 12th of September, I skip forward, we can see that Ukrainians are gaining ground slowly and that the front has stabilized. This front kind of mimics the Oskil river. Russians ran behind that river. You can see it here, it is huge here, it's going smaller and smaller, and up in the north it is just a small stream. Now the reason why the front stopped here is mainly because Ukrainians have taken thousands of prisoners and there's a huge amount of Russian equipment they have captured and they need to move from these areas because Russians know where this equipment is and they are very much interested in bombing the hell out of their own equipment so it wouldn't fall to Ukrainian hands. So Ukrainian priorities right now have been processing the thousands of Russian POWs, hauling the Russian equipment out of this area, gathering all of the ammunition they captured from the Russians and also hauling it out of the area so Russians couldn't destroy it. All of this takes a lot of manpower and thus the front has stabilized on the Oskil river. But this river is not an obstacle for the Ukrainians in the future because they have already crossed the river. They have two separate bridgeheads over this river into the eastern side of the Oskil river. Further assaults to Russian-held Lugansk and Donetsk can start from here. This is not the only place Ukrainians have crossed the river. Here we have Severodonetsk and we have here Severodonetsk river, this one. Russians lost almost 100 pieces of armored equipment crossing this river. That was about 2 to 3 months ago. This map doesn't show it, but we have Telegram updates that Ukrainians have crossed this Severodonetsk river from here, Bilakharivka. They have crossed like that. So Ukrainians have crossings here and in here. I think Ukrainian plan might be connecting with their Izium grouping, trapping Liman forces. Basically doing the same thing they did with the Kharkiv front, threatening to trap a huge amount of Russian troops, collapsing the entire front. Hey, if it works, don't change it. I'm not an Estonian soldier anymore. Or an Estonian YouTuber. I am now a Lord of Scotland, and these are my lands. Established Titles is a project based on a historic Scottish custom, where landowners, such as myself, are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. They allow people to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest, so that you can call yourself a lord or a lady. Bow before me, peasant. Off with your head. I'm supposed to be a nice lord. Off with your head. Your certificate features a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of your land. It makes a great last-minute gift. They even have couple packs that come with adjoining plots of land. You could officially change your name to Lord or Lady and get it on your credit card, plane tickets, etc. if your country allows it. You can even get it on your dating profiles. I mean, have you seen some lords up in Tinder? You're gonna be the first. Established Titles is committed to planting a tree with every order. It is a fun, novel way to help preserve the picturesque woodlands and biodiversity of Scotland while supporting global afforestation efforts. Established Titles is actually running a massive sale right now. Plus, if you use the code Estonian69, yeah, I'm not kidding you, the code is Estonian69, you get an additional 10% off. Established Titles told me that the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot, within a few minutes of walking. Depending on how many of you want to become a lord or a lady, we can build our own little kingdom. Go to establishedtitles.com/Estonian69 to get your gifts now and help support the channel. Let's jump to the southern front, the Kherson front. 12th of September, as you can see, the advancement from the Ukrainian side is very slow. We have a few salients here and here, but they don't move much. In these areas, Russian troops number about 15 to 20,000, and Ukrainians are trying to fight according to NATO standards. That means they don't push if they know they're gonna lose a lot of men. They soften the battleground, or they bomb Russian logistics centers, ammunition depots, and so on. This is Kherson right here, and this is Kiselivka. Today we got a report from Telegram that Kiselivka, this settlement right here, has been liberated, so Ukrainians have a salient coming like that. And this means that Kherson defense line is from Kiselivka, the Ukrainian forces, only 10 kilometers. Taking of this settlement doesn't change much in means of artillery, because Ukrainians are very careful bombing Kherson. Ukrainians live in Kherson, so they don't want to bomb their own people, and Russians hide behind the civilians. So taking this settlement does not make it any easier to bomb Russians in Kherson. HIMARS do a lot of work here, and Bayraktars do a lot of work here. And they are not in a hurry, because this Russian 15,000 strong power here, they cannot retreat because there are no working bridges over the Dnieper River. Zelensky raised the Ukrainian flag in Izium. He visited Izium. We're so used to Zelensky doing things like that, staying in Kiev when Kiev was surrounded, visiting the frontal areas, liberated settlements. I remind you, Izium is only mere 15 kilometers from the front. And Russians wouldn't even need to use Caliber cruise missiles, they would just need to use regular artillery to make this strike. Zelensky has proven with his actions that he is not afraid, that he values Ukrainian freedom more than his own life. He's that kind of a man. Can you imagine Putin doing something like that? Can you imagine Putin visiting, let's say, Kherson? It's a very important city for the Russians, and it is only 15 kilometers from the front, like Izium. I must say no, I cannot imagine that. Talking about Zelensky, he was actually in a car crash recently. Passenger car collided with his motorcade. Fortunately, nobody was seriously injured. Ukrainian Prime Minister Shmyhal let us know that Ukraine is considering abolishing the mandatory military service. He says that men should rather go through 2 to 3 month period training after every 5 to 10 years than have them marching around 1 to 2 years straight in military service. I agree with that. Estonian military service is 8 or 11 months long, and it is very packed, it is very detailed, very filled with action and training. Ukrainian and Russian military service, conscript service, is very long. They don't do much there. They don't actually learn in their conscript times like Estonians do. Mostly they learn to march, they cook, they build, they do logistic work. They don't learn how to fight. Looking at the training of Ukrainian and Russian conscripts in the past 10 years, the level is very low. So this system just doesn't work. It's a good idea, but it needs a reform. You can train a soldier to be a soldier in 3 months. You don't need 2 years. This is Russia's most popular propaganda TV show. Tens of millions of Russians watch it. After the defeat in Kharkiv, a very interesting thing happened. They suddenly, for the first time, talk about how Ukraine has its own language and culture, how Ukraine is a very strong adversary, how the Russians keep hearing about Ukrainian mass surrenders, but they don't see any. All they see is Ukrainian fanatical defense. They even talk about the need to admit defeat in the Kharkiv region. This is very new for Russia. It is about time they open their eyes. The TikTok clown Ramzan Kadyrov has uploaded another video claiming that Russians are not retreating. It is all a ruse, all part of a genius tactic to lure the Ukrainians in and then attack them. And he also said that he would declare a full mobilization, a martial law, but it is not up to him. And also mobilization would not change the situation anymore. This window has passed. This man is Vyacheslav Sadorenko. He was part of a Ukrainian unit that liberated a settlement that his mother and father lived in. So he liberated his mother's town, and his mother, as you can see, is very proud of him, says the words Geroi, which means you are hero. This is what the Ukrainians have. This is what they are fighting for. Homes, mother, fathers, families, their land, their freedom. Russians have nothing like that in Ukraine. That is why Russians cannot win. They're not able to win against this. European Union chief Ursula von der Leyen said today, "We should have listened to the voices inside our union. In Poland, in the Baltics, and all across the Central and Eastern Europe, they have been telling us for years that Putin would not stop." Yes, Estonia has been screaming this for years, for 20 plus years, hell, 30 plus years. Estonia has been screaming that, Europe, watch out, we know what Russia is all about. Nobody listened. Latvia told the same, Lithuania told the same, Poland the same. I'm glad they listen to us now. First 5,000 Ukrainian servicemen have finished basic soldier training in the United Kingdom. Britain has promised promised to train Ukrainian troops 10,000 at the time. And this is a huge thing. Training these troops takes a lot of manpower, time, effort and skill. UK is contributing a lot training Ukrainian troops like that. They've gained basic knowledge, skills and abilities in tactical medicine, engineering, live fire drills, psychological and tactical training, offensive missions and urban warfare. This video reminds me so much of my own conscript times. We did the exact same infantry drills, and all it is dull training, dull rehearsing. Well, practice makes perfect. But believe me or not, Russian conscripts do not do this. I don't know why. They should, they're soldiers, but Russian conscripts' time is filled with different tasks. Building houses for the oligarchs, but they don't learn how to be a soldier. Here is a list of Russian losses on the 12th of September. Note that Ukraine only lost 3 vehicles. Here is a list of Russian losses on the 13th of September. 82 vehicles, out of which 58 were captured by Ukraine, pushing up Russian Lend-Lease aid to Ukraine. Chinese president visited Kazakhstan. This is no small thing. Kazakhstan is supposed to be deep in the Russian sphere of influence. China has no business in there, but now that Russia is weakening in every aspect, China is claiming land. This is a clear signal to the Kremlin. Kremlin propagandists and high-ranking officials have talked about claiming land in Kazakhstan, having some territorial claims over Kazakhstan, basically sending their forces in and taking some land. Well, now that China backs Kazakhstan, makes a public visit, these Russian plans are out of the window. And this also shows where Kazakhstan stands. They want to get away from Russia. Even if it means going under China, they still would take the gamble. Check out these Ukrainian Mi-8 helicopters. They're flying so low, you could say they're almost walking. A bit more and they would clip the sunflowers. I mean, this is how sunflower oil is made in Ukraine. And the same thing with this Ukrainian fighter jet. Could not go lower. This video comes from a Russian prison. Russian private military organization Wagner is heavily recruiting from Russian prisons. Russia has tens of thousands of prisoners, a lot of prisoners. The percentage of prisoners from the population is mind-bogglingly huge. So there's a lot of cannon fodder that Wagner seeks to take advantage of. So they offer them money and they offer them freedom if they're able to survive in battle for more than 6 months. But the survivability of Russian conscripts and prisoners on the front line is definitely lower than 6 months. So that's not a good deal, but some of them are willing to take it. That is it, my friends. Thank you for watching this video and thank you for staying with me. If you like the channel, then the Patreon link is in the description below, as well as Knock Them Out cold mug and shirt. Until my next video, Slava Ukraini!